evening, grade 7. Well, today's lesson is about sedimentary rocks. Now, I've already discussed about 3 different types of rocks that we have. The first one, which we've already finished, is the igneous rocks, and we've explained how these rocks are formed as a result of a volcanic eruption. So they are formed of matter that comes from inside the earth. Quite contrast to that are the sedimentary rocks, which form in a more or less simple way, that is sedimenting. Sediment is when you keep having layer after layer of small particles and those keep joining. They don't join over a day or a year or a month. They join over thousands and thousands of years, and the pressure, the force, lot of geographical features and factors are involved in the formation of these sedimentary rocks. Okay, so please could you open your course book to page number 110 and 111. Okay, now what are sedimentary rocks? These are different examples of sedimentary rocks, and as I just told you, look into the first paragraph, the sediment. That's more important in your course book. So rivers often carry lots of sediment. Okay, sediment is the silt. So what is the sediment made up of? This is made up of little fragments of rocks, very small fragments of rocks, and eventually what happens, anything that is heavy would settle down out of the water when the river reaches the sea. So now here you can see there are 5 types of sedimentary rocks. These are examples. First is the sandstone, and sandstone is used for construction of buildings or statues or temples. Then you have the gypsum. Gypsum is used, when we paint the walls, we use the plaster of Paris or in the form of cast or any molds. That is what is gypsum. The third is conglomerates. Yes, conglomerates are used as different ornamental stones that you find around. They come in different colors. Then the next is limestone. Okay, limestone, where do we use it? We use it for manufacturing the writing chalk. Okay, you must have seen when you were small, you had a black board and a white chalk. That is what is limestone, and in concrete or in glass. The last example is shale rock. What is a shale rock? Shale rock is used for manufacturing the bricks, tiles, and the Portland cement. Now, how are these formed? Sedimentary rocks. Okay, the sedimentary rocks are formed as a result of layers of rocks or mud that collect on the seabed. Okay, and as obviously more and more layers build up, it will exert force and pressure on the particles below. And as a result of this continuous exertion of force and pressure over thousands and thousands of years, they result in the formation of solid rock. But because it is due to the force and the pressure from external atmosphere, there are small tiny holes or pores in between these rocks, and therefore these rocks generally are porous. Porous means the water is able to flow through it. These rocks are known as sedimentary rocks. Now, a special characteristics of these rocks, which is quite in contrast with the igneous rocks, is that they have remains of dead plants and animals. Okay, now what are these remains of dead plants and animals called? These are called fossils, right? Okay, so now we'll just get to, you just have 2 examples in your textbook. One is sandstone and the other is limestone. So the first example is sandstone, and sandstone, as the name suggests, it is made up of sand, and therefore it is formed when grains of sand are pressed together. As we've done also in the soil, the grains of sand are very porous. The sandy soil therefore does not have the capacity to retain water. Okay, which is why it has to be mixed with the clay soil. We discussed it. Now, so they have tiny gaps or holes or pores between them. Now, the beauty of these sedimentary rocks, which are found in abundance in Oman, you will find sometimes they are colored differently and to make it beautiful, but mostly The mineral that is present here is quartz and feldspar. Now this is generally how a sandstone, this is the color of sand. Again, of course, you have different colors, so therefore, depending upon the color and the mineral that is present in the sandstone, the color of the rock will also vary. The second example, in 110, you can see the grains in a sedimentary rock, you can see the holes, and while it's compared with the crystals in an igneous rock, and you can see in the picture there, the last two pictures down in page number 110, where they are saying that the igneous rock, there are no gaps in between them, while in the sedimentary rock, especially the sandstone, they have tiny gaps. Now the second example, that's on page number 111, is limestone. What is limestone? This is of course a type of sedimentary rock, so it is formed by sedimentation. But here now there's slight difference because it is formed from the fragments of the shells, okay, from animals like corals. You've seen corals on the seabeds, and these corals, the grains are made up of a chemical substance. It's a salt that's known as calcium carbonate. Yes, it is often white as it is made up of calcium carbonate. Now, limestone is full of fossils. Generally, it is full of fossils. We'll look into it a little later. This is the picture of limestone. Okay. Now, let's move on. What is chalk? Now, there are some characteristic features of the chalk. That is, it is a very pure form of limestone. Okay, the pure form of limestone is chalk, and it is rich in calcium carbonate. So because it's rich in calcium carbonate, it is, easily weathered off. Now what is weathering? Weathering is a topic that we are going to study and discuss in the later classes, but a simple definition of weathering is to wear away or to get eroded, to be removed. Okay, now as it contains joints and pores, it also is vulnerable to freeze-thaw weathering. Now, freeze-thaw weathering is a type of weathering that will not happen in our countries, the tropical countries, but could happen in the countries where the rocks are capped with ice for many months, and then there is spring and the temperature rises. Okay, it's important that you also know what fossils are. Okay, now I am directly giving you a definition from the National Geographic that says that fossils are the preserved remains, okay, or traces of remains of ancient organisms. Ancient is very, very, very old organisms. Now these fossils are not the remains of the organism itself, they are rocks. Okay, so what are they? They are rocks. A fossil can sometimes preserve an entire organism, or sometimes it can just have a part of one. So it could have the bones or the shells or the feathers and leaves can all become fossil. Okay, so it is just the preserved remains. Why is it preserved? Because depending upon the pressure that has fallen and the rock has formed, this also has got preserved, and that has happened naturally. This is the example of the fossil of a fish that's found on a sedimentary rock. Okay. Now, I would like you to go through this minerals and rocks vocabulary chart. Okay, most of them, except I think the metamorphic rock, which is what I'm going to start off tomorrow, and the Mohs scale. This is just a scale and extra information to you. Other than that, all the words are kind of common, and you just note the meanings of each of them. Okay, now for this I want you to do it as match the column, and I will solve it next week when I start off with the revision. Thank you.